Hey there, food adventurers. Ever wonder how a handful of shaky English settlers in the 13 colonies didn't just survive? They actually launched the entire story of American eating? You've been missing the wild, life-saving secrets that turned rocky soil and freezing winters into the backbone of every regional cuisine we still crave today. From golden cornmeal everything to smoky game roasts and creamy coastal stews, this is the real origin story of American food. And I'm about to blow your mind with every bold bite, surprising twist, and practical tip you can use right now in your own kitchen or at Whole Foods. Grab a coffee, get comfy, and let's dig in. You're going to want to try these at home. Let's kick things off with the absolute foundation, the cuisine of the 13 colonies. This is literally where it all began. The Three Sisters and Native American rescue hook. You've been eating corn, beans, and squash completely wrong for years. Because without Native Americans teaching the early English settlers the genius Three Sisters planting trick, the 13 colonies would have straight up failed during those brutal first winters. Here's how it worked in simple terms. Native Americans showed the colonists how to plant corn, beans, and squash together in the same little hill. Corn shoots up tall and becomes a natural pole for the beans to climb, while the low-growing squash vines spread out like a living blanket, shading the soil, locking in moisture, and keeping weeds at bay. They also taught settlers to tap maple trees for sweet syrup and to hunt deer while trapping wild turkey. Picture this, you sink your teeth into that sweet, juicy corn kernel that bursts with sunny, earthy sweetness, paired with tender beans that pop with a creamy, nutty depth, and soft roasted squash that melts on your tongue with a velvety, caramel-like richness, all grown side by side in perfect harmony. Here's a surprising twist. You'd never guess that the very crops that saved the colonies were actually a gift from the land's original caretakers. The colonists' European wheat failed miserably in New England's rocky soil, so corn became the total hero instead. The drama is wild. Early English settlers arrived totally unprepared for the New World's harsh winters and unpredictable seasons. Without this native knowledge, whole colonies would have starved, but the shared wisdom turned desperate survival into a thriving food system that fed families for generations. While most Americans today still picture Thanksgiving turkey and pumpkin pie as traditional, the truth is the real foundation was this indigenous European mashup. In Europe, they were stuck with wheat-heavy breads and porridges, but here in the colonies, corn became king almost overnight. Practical tip for you. Head to any Whole Foods or local farmer's market and grab a Three Sisters seed packet or starter plants. They're cheap and perfect for backyard gardens or even balcony pots. Plant them together in a sunny spot and you'll have fresh produce all summer. For beginners or keto fans, roast the squash with a touch of maple syrup and pair it with grilled turkey breast. Super low carb and ridiculously satisfying. Corn becomes the backbone. Hook. Corn quickly took over the colonies so hard that it replaced wheat entirely in the early decades, and the dishes they created with it are still total comfort classics you need to try. Colonists adapted their British puddings and porridges using cornmeal, whipping up staples like samp, a thick corn porridge, mush, boiled cornmeal eaten sweet or savory, and Johnny cakes, simple cornmeal flatbreads baked or fried. Everything relied on corn until farms matured and wheat mills finally caught up. Sakatas even mixed corn and beans together straight from Narragansett cooking traditions. Imagine a steaming bowl of creamy cornmeal mush that's silky on the tongue with a gentle, toasty corn sweetness, or a crispy golden Johnny cake that snaps on the outside yet stays soft and pillowy inside, perfect for sopping up every last drop of maple syrup. Ironically, the secret most people don't know is that corn wasn't just filler. It was versatile enough to be baked into breads for field workers or boiled into a thick, calorie-packed fuel that kept everyone going through long days. History hits hard here. Wheat struggled badly in New England's rocky soil, so cornmeal became the total lifeline. Without it, the colonies might never have survived those first tough decades. In Europe, they were all about refined wheat loaves, but Americans turned corn into the ultimate everyday hero. Think how modern keto fans in California now swear by cornmeal alternatives the same way early colonists did. Tip for you, next time you're at Costco, grab a big bag of stone-ground cornmeal and make Johnny cakes at home in under 15 minutes. Just mix with water, salt, and a little maple syrup. Beginners love this because it's foolproof, and it pairs insanely well with a bold California Cabernet Sauvignon for date night. Game meats and the hunting life. Hook. Meat dominated colonial tables more than seafood ever did, and the way colonists hunted deer, wild turkey, rabbits, squirrels, and even passenger pigeons turned survival into celebration. They roasted deer meat with vegetables, stewed it slow, or baked pigeon pie that could hold dozens of birds under a flaky pastry crust. Turkey became the star at every big celebration. That first bite of slow-roasted deer is bold and gamey up front, then melts into rich, savory juices with a hint of wild herbs, crispy outside, juicy inside, while pigeon pie delivers a flaky, buttery crust, hiding tender, earthy meat that practically falls apart. The surprising twist? Hunting wasn't just sport, it literally kept families alive when crops failed, yet over time, as forests were cleared, wild game got scarce, and people switched to farm animals. Drama alert. Early settlers faced crop failures and starvation winters, but native-taught hunting skills turned those lean times into feasts. Passenger pigeons were once so plentiful they darkened the sky. Now they're extinct, a sobering reminder of how fast things changed. While most Americans today grab chicken from the grocery store, back then wild game was the everyday protein. Europeans roasted big cuts, but colonists made do with whatever the woods provided, just like modern hunters in rural Texas still do. Practical tip, if you're in the US, check your local butcher or Whole Foods for pasture-raised venison or turkey. It's more available than you think. For home cooks, slow-cook deer stew in a crock pot with root veggies and a splash of maple syrup. Pair it with a crisp Pinot Noir, keto-friendly and restaurant-level delicious. Preservation power moves. Hook. Boiling wasn't boring, it was the colony's secret weapon for keeping every calorie and stretching every ingredient through long winters. Pumpkins and squash grew easily and stored forever, so colonists hollowed them out, filled them with milk, honey, and spices, then baked them whole in hot ashes. No fancy pie crust yet, just rustic pumpkin puddings. In the Delaware Valley, dried beef became so common they called the cream sauce version Quaker gravy, and scrapple, a loaf of pork scraps, cornmeal, and spices, turned into a regional legend still loved today. That creamy pumpkin pudding is velvety smooth with deep caramel notes from the honey, while scrapple delivers a crispy golden outside and a savory porky inside that's pure comfort. You'd never guess that the focus on boiling and preservation came from needing less fuel and zero constant watching, way smarter than open fire roasting. History drama, harsh New England winters forced serious ingenuity. When proper kitchens arrived later, refined desserts finally showed up, but those early ash-baked puddings were the humble start. In Europe, they preserved with salt and smoke, but Americans blended native drying techniques with English boiling. Today, you'll see the same practical spirit in keto meal prep trends across the Midwest. Tip for you, next grocery run at Tesco or Whole Foods, grab a sugar pumpkin and try the ash bake method in your oven, or use a Dutch oven. For scrapple fans, it's super easy at home and perfect for busy mornings. Slice, fry crisp, and serve with eggs. Beginners and low-carb eaters, this is your new go-to. New England cuisine, seafood, and creamy classics. Hook. New England's rocky coastlines and icy Atlantic waters gave birth to a cuisine that's all about fresh seafood and hearty, no-nonsense comfort. You're about to meet the dishes that turned poverty food into icons. The pride of the region is clam chowder. Thick, creamy, loaded with clams, potatoes, salt pork, and milk. Fishermen in the early 1700s just threw whatever they had into big pots along the Massachusetts coast. One spoonful and you get that briny ocean punch balanced by velvety cream, tender clams that pop, and soft potatoes that soak up every savory note. Pure, silky perfection. Surprising twist. Unlike the tomato-based versions down south, New Englanders insist on keeping it strictly white because dairy farming thrived in Vermont and New Hampshire's cool hills where crops struggled. Drama time. Early Puritan settlers met Native Americans in the 1600s, adapted old world recipes, and learned to preserve through brutal winters. Lobsters were once so plentiful they washed up on beaches. Servants actually complained about eating them too often. By the late 1800s, overfishing made them luxury. While most Americans picture lobster as fancy, New Englanders treat it like everyday fare. Europeans might steam it plain, but here it's all about that creamy, practical style that feels right at home in a California keto bowl or a UK pub lunch. Tip for you, order the real deal at any New England-style spot or make it at home with canned clams if you're landlocked. At Whole Foods, grab fresh little neck clams and heavy cream. Pair the chowder with a crisp Sauvignon Blanc. For beginners, start with a simple lobster roll. Sweet meat in a toasted bun with just butter or mayo. Total crowd pleaser. Clam bakes, baked beans, and more New England gems. Hook. Nothing screams New England like a beachside clam bake or a steaming pot of Boston baked beans. Communal, hearty, and packed with history. Clam bakes layer clams, lobster, corn, and potatoes, then steam everything in seaweed over hot rocks right on the shore. Boston baked beans simmer slow with molasses and salt pork until dark and sticky sweet. You taste the ocean brine mingling with sweet corn, smoky pork, and earthy beans that are soft yet still hold their shape. Pure, cozy fireside magic. Ironically, these poverty dishes became symbols of abundance because the sea gave so freely at first. History. The region's Puritan roots and harsh winters pushed preservation through pickling, smoking, and basic baking. Maple syrup sweetened everything, while local berries and roots carried families through the cold. In Europe, fancy seafood meant French sauces, but New England keeps it simple and lets the ingredients shine, just like how modern foodies in LA now host deconstructed clam bakes for summer parties. Tip for you, recreate a mini clam bake in your backyard grill or even a big pot on the stove. Costco sells frozen lobster tails cheap. Pair with dark beer or New Zealand Pinot Noir. Low-carb fans skip the corn and load up on extra clams. Beginners start with canned baked beans doctored with extra molasses and bacon. You'll never go back to the store brand. Southern cuisine, the mother of American flavor. Cook. Southern cuisine is often called the mother of all American cooking, and once you taste its mix of native, African, and European influences, you'll understand why it still rules every backyard barbecue and soul food Sunday dinner. Unlike the wheat-bread North, the South runs on corn, pork, and chicken. Vegetables get cooked long and slow with pork fat for that rich pot liquor, a direct nod to European and West African traditions. Bite into perfectly fried chicken and you get that ultra-crispy golden crust giving way to juicy, seasoned meat that's tender and flavorful all the way through. Pure Southern magic. Surprising twist, frying became huge in the hot South because it was quick and didn't turn the whole house into an oven. Smart, right? Drama. Scottish frying techniques met African seasoning and battering, while enslaved cooks transformed simple rations into legends. Barbecue styles split by region. Tangy vinegar in North Carolina, sweet tomato in Tennessee, spicy rubs in Texas. While Northerners might grab a quick sandwich, Southern tables are built for sharing and slow eating. Starbucks may have popularized coffee, but nothing beats sweet tea with a side of collard greens cooked with ham hocks. Tip for you, at Whole Foods or your local butcher, grab pasture-raised chicken and try the classic Southern fry at home, seasoned with paprika, garlic, and a touch of cayenne. Pair with a bold Zinfandel or sweet tea for that authentic vibe. Keto fans go for the collards and black-eyed peas eaten for New Year's luck and skip the cornbread. Beginners start with a simple shrimp boil, cheap, fast, and feeds a crowd. Hey there, welcome back to the second half of this epic journey through the birth of American cuisine. We just wrapped the broad Southern vibes with that incredible fried chicken magic. So let's keep rolling straight into the heart of it all. You're about to discover how these regional flavors exploded from the same colonial roots into the bold, comforting plates we still fight over today. Grab another coffee. You're going to be hungry and inspired by the time we're done. Deep South, rich, sweet, and built for the heat hook. If you think Southern food is rich, wait until you meet the Deep South, Georgia, Alabama, Mississippi, Louisiana, and South Carolina, where plantation life turned everyday meals into legendary belly-filling feasts that still define comfort food across America. Enslaved cooks created dishes designed to sustain massive labor using crops right from the fields. Red beans and rice simmered all day on Laundry Mondays, served spicy over rice with cornbread. Jambalaya tossed meat, seafood, veggies, and spices into one pot for crowd-feeding magic. Gumbo thickened with okra or filet powder became the ultimate stew, while crawfish boils turned into huge communal parties with potatoes and corn in fiery water. Bite into that red beans and rice and you get a bold, smoky pork punch up front, then silky rice that soaks up the creamy bean gravy with a tingly cayenne finish. Pure stick-to-your-ribs heaven. Jambalaya delivers layers of savory depth, while gumbo feels velvety and complex on the tongue. Here's a surprising twist. You'd never guess these fancy one-pot wonders started as cheap, practical working-class meals because everything cooked slow in the brutal southern heat. The drama hits hard. The plantation economy forced ingenuity. Enslaved cooks took limited ingredients and turned them into flavor bombs that fed entire communities for generations. While most Americans in the North grab quick sandwiches, Deep South tables are built for sharing and lingering, just like how keto fans in California now adapt these recipes with cauliflower rice for the same hearty vibe. Practical tip for you, next trip to Whole Foods or Costco, grab andouille sausage and red beans. Make Monday red beans and rice in your slow cooker in under 10 minutes of prep. Beginners love it because it's set it and forget it. Pair with a chilled rosé or sweet tea. Low-carb crowd, skip the rice and load up on extra veggies. It's still soul-satisfying. Mid-Atlantic, sandwiches, diners, and global mashups. Hook. The Mid-Atlantic was America's original melting pot port, and its food screams big city energy with sandwiches that became full meals and delis that fed the world. Philly cheesesteak piles, frizzled beef and melted cheese, whiz or provolone on a long roll, born from working-class hunger in Italian bakeries. Beef on Weck in western New York stacks roast beef on a Kummelweck roll with caraway seeds. Crab cakes from Chesapeake Bay use jumbo lump blue crab with almost no filler. That first cheesesteak bite is greasy, savory perfection. Crispy roll giving way to juicy beef and gooey cheese that stretches forever. Crab cakes delivers sweet, delicate crab with a golden, crunchy exterior. Ironically, the secret most people don't know is that these massive sandwiches started as practical lunch fuel for immigrants and dock workers, yet now they're tourist icons. History drama, centuries of trade and immigration blended Dutch, Swedish, German, and Italian influences with local seafood and fertile farms. New Jersey's Garden State produce and Pennsylvania's rich soil made everything fresh and abundant. In Europe, they might serve tiny portions of cured meats, but here in the Mid-Atlantic, everything's oversized and shareable, exactly like how modern foodies in the UK now hunt for authentic Philly cheesesteaks at pop-ups. Tip for you. At Tesco or Whole Foods, grab ribeye slices and hoagie rolls. Make your own cheesesteak at home in 15 minutes. Order the real deal at any East Coast diner. Pair with hoppy IPA or crisp lager. Beginners and keto fans, go for the crab cakes. High protein and ridiculously easy on a sheet pan. Appalachian and Amish Pennsylvania Dutch, preservation and self-reliance. Hook. Isolated in the rugged Appalachian Mountains, this cuisine stayed true to conservation and old world roots. You've been missing these hearty, no-waste dishes that feel like edible history. Leather britches, dried green beans, cook with pork fat for meaty texture. Soup beans, slow-simmered with ham hock, cornbread, and bacon-greased greens are everyday staples. The pepperoni roll, a soft bread stuffed with pepperoni, was invented by Italian coal miners for underground lunches. Spoon into those soup beans and you taste deep, smoky pork mingling with creamy beans and a slight tang from the greens. Pure mountain comfort. Surprising twist, the Amish and Pennsylvania Dutch, Deutsch meaning German, bake pastries on cabbage leaves in wood-fired ovens to avoid hot spots, leading to shoofly pie and molasses crumb cake. Drama. Scots, Irish, and German settlers carved life from rocky land, passing recipes through generations tied to seasons and faith. 7 sweets and 7 sours balanced every meal. While Californians chase farm-to-table trends, Appalachia has been doing preservation since the 1700s. Today, wild ramps and pawpaws are gourmet treasures in fancy restaurants. Tip for you, hunt for pepperoni rolls at any Midwest gas station or make them at home with store-bought dough. At Whole Foods, grab dried beans and ham hocks for soup beans. Pair with local cider. Keto friends, the whoopie pies can be adapted low-carb with almond flour. Italian-American and Jewish-American. Immigrant transformations. Hook, little Italis and Jewish delis turned poverty ingredients into American legends. Spaghetti and meatballs and massive pastrami sandwiches that changed how the whole country eats. Italian immigrants from southern Italy found cheap meat and canned tomatoes, creating Sunday gravy loaded with meatballs and sausages. Chicken parmesan and New York-style pizza exploded. Jewish delis piled pastrami and corned beef on rye with mustard. Kosher rules sparked dairy-free innovations. That spaghetti and meatballs is rich, garlicky, and comforting. Tender meat swimming in slow-simmered sauce. A pastrami sandwich delivers smoky, peppery beef between chewy rye with that perfect pickle crunch. You'd never guess. Spaghetti and meatballs barely existed in Italy. Meat was a luxury there, but America made it every day. History. Waves of immigrants adapted old recipes to new abundance, creating dishes like fettuccine alfredo and bagels with lox that became national treasures. In Europe, portions stayed small and traditional, but here everything got bigger and more celebratory, perfect for family-style keto bowls in Texas or quick deli lunches in London. Tip for you. At Costco, grab Italian sausage and make Sunday gravy in your Instant Pot. For Jewish classics, order a pastrami on rye at any authentic deli and pair with a Dr. Brown soda. Beginners, start simple. Your kitchen will smell like a restaurant. Low Country, Gullah, and Chesapeake, rice, seafood, and bay treasures. Hook, coastal South Carolina, and Georgia gave us rice-based low country magic, while the Chesapeake Bay defined Maryland and Virginia with blue crab and oysters. Shrimp and grits started as fisherman's breakfast but became iconic. Creek shrimp sautéed with bacon over creamy grits. Gula red rice echoes West African jollof. Chesapeake crab cakes use Old Bay seasoning on jumbo lump crab. Creamy grits hug those sweet shrimp with smoky bacon notes, velvety and addictive. Crab cakes burst with sweet ocean flavor and a light, golden crust. Surprising twist, she crab soup gets its orange hue from crab roe, turning humble seafood into fine dining elegance. Drama. Gula people kept the strongest African rice culture. Chesapeake's abundance once made oysters cheap worker food. While Northerners might steam seafood plain, here it's spiced and communal, just like how Pacific Northwest salmon grills echo these fresh, seasonal roots. Tip for you, Whole Foods sells stone-ground grits and fresh shrimp. Make shrimp and grits in 20 minutes. Pair with Chardonnay. Low-carb, use cauliflower grits. Floridian, Midwestern, Great Plains, and Ozark. Tropical twists to prairie hardiness. Hook Florida splits between rustic cracker food and vibrant Cuban fusion, while the Midwest, Plains, and Ozarks deliver filling, immigrant-fueled comfort. Cuban sandwich with roasted pork and pickles on pressed bread. Hot dish in Minnesota layers tater tots, beef, and soup. Runs a Pockets beef and cabbage. Ozark cashew chicken blends southern fry with Chinese gravy. That Cuban sandwich is tangy, melty perfection, crispy bread hugging juicy pork. Hot dish is warm, cheesy, and hug in a pan. Ironically, key lime pie uses condensed milk because fresh dairy was scarce on the Keys. History. Waves of settlers and immigrants adapted to local bounty. Bison on the plains, cheese in Wisconsin. Europeans roast big cuts. Americans turned everything portable and practical for farm life or beach days. Tip for you, make a Cuban sandwich at home with Costco deli meats. For hot dish, it's the ultimate potluck winner. Pair with beer. Pacific Northwest, Californian, and Southwestern, fresh, bold, and desert roots hook. Salmon runs and farm-to-table vibes define the Pacific Northwest and California, while the Southwest brings ancient Pueblo heat. Cedar plank salmon with dill. Cobb salad and avocado, everything in California. New Mexican stacked enchiladas with green or red chili. Salmon flakes tender with smoky cedar notes. Cobb salad is crisp, creamy, and colorful. Surprising twist, the California roll hid seaweed to make sushi American-friendly. Drama. Alice Waters launched Farm to Table in the 70s. Ancient corn, beans, squash still rule the desert. While most Americans add heavy sauces, here freshness reigns, perfect for keto salads in New York. Tip for you, grill salmon on cedar at home, grab hatch chilies at Whole Foods for authentic New Mexico heat. Texan, Tex-Mex, Louisiana Creole, and Cajun, soul food, bigger, spicier, and soulful. Hook, everything's bigger in Texas, brisket, chicken fried steak, and fajitas, while Creole and Cajun bring city elegance and country fire, and soul food turns rations into legends. Texas brisket smoked low and slow, Tex-Mex combo plates with queso, Creole gumbo with tomatoes, Cajun dark roux, soul food collards with ham hocks and mac and cheese, brisket melts like butter, soul food greens are smoky and tender. You'd never guess nachos were invented on the spot in 1943 for hungry military wives. History. German immigrants shaped Texas BBQ. Enslaved cooks created soul food. Southern slow cooking meets global spice. Starbucks may have coffee, but nothing beats sweet tea with this food. Tip for you, smoke brisket or fry chicken at home. Pair with bold red wine or sweet tea. Keto, focus on the meats and greens. Chinese, Greek-American, American barbecue, Hawaiian and Puerto Rican global flavors. Meet the USA hook from chop suey to gyros, American barbecue rituals, Hawaiian plate lunches, and Puerto Rican mofongo. These final chapters show how America kept borrowing and making everything its own. General Tso's sweetened for American palates, Cincinnati chili three-way, plate lunch with mac salad, mofongo mashed plantains with pork. Every bite tells a story of adaptation and celebration. Surprising twist, fortune cookies started with Japanese immigrants. Drama, gold rush camps, great migrations, plantation workers, all blended into today's favorites. Europeans keep strict traditions, Americans mix and supersize for everyone. Tip for you, order Hawaiian plate lunch or make Puerto Rican arroz con gandules at home. Hit Whole Foods for ingredients. Pair with tropical drinks or beer. Beginners, these are weeknight winners. Keto fans, load up on proteins and skip the rice. You just traveled the entire birth of American eating, from colonial corn to modern fusion plates. Which region are you cooking first? Drop it in the comments and tag a friend who needs this in their life.